Welcome, everybody. This is Hugh Massie, the chairman and founder of DNA Behavior. And today I'm delighted to be hosting another identity conversation. And I have John Marshall with me. And John and I have known each other really ever since I came into Atlanta from Sydney 18 or so years ago now. I can't believe, John, the time that's passed. And, John is a tech entrepreneur, but I think there's a greater gift he has around community building. He's got a love of people, bringing people together as people for events, for life. So welcome, John.
Thank you, Hugh. I very much appreciate our relationship that we've had over these several years and many years, which I've cherished enormously. And I also very much appreciate you taking out a half an hour of your precious time to share with me. So thank you.
Well, John, why don't we just get started by you telling our listeners just a little bit about your life background and how you've, gone on the journey to today, being the founder of HLPster, which I think is a revolutionary platform, and it's going to change the game in the employee engagement space and helping people build psychological safety. But why don't you just tell us a little bit about your, earlier life backgrounds, why you love technology, people, and we'll just go from there.
Sure. All right. Thank you, Hugh. Actually, I was born in Indiana. By the good grace of my folks, moved out of Indiana to Sarasota, Florida, when I was around 4 years old, and I grew up in Sarasota, which was back then it was a sleepy little town, and I was always involved with technology. Matter of fact, I had quite an electronics lab and a chemical lab. Fortunately, I did electrical, and was very much a geek. In high school, and I'm thinking about it in real time. In high school, I chaired or put together a team that would raise money. So that's the first time I did any money raising, which I've done a lot since. Raise money for the very first computer that we had in the high school. So I think we raised, I want to say 5,000. I don't think it was 50. So $5,000 to buy a very, very simple computer, one of the very first ones out on the market. That would have been in 1976, 75, 76. And even then, it was a struggle for me personally in that I'm very reasonably bright technically. And yet I'm also more personality and relationships than I am particularly technical. And so that's been a conflict, quite frankly, I've had. And so as a result of that, for example, I ran I graduated, I went to Purdue University from high school, went to Purdue University, enjoyed too much of college life, fraternity life, but by the grace of God, I actually earned both my bachelor's and master's in electrical engineering. So clearly there was something there technology-wise, or I couldn't have graduated with that. I left there and pretty much did technology-type businesses as either a developer or a programmer, both hardware and software, and did pretty much everything technically oriented, but really that wasn't my passion. And so back in some 20 some years ago, I started my first business, which I always wanted to have my own business. And it was primarily a technology business. It was a small business. It made a fair amount of money. And so it was, by a lot of outward appearances, it was relatively successful. Ran that for 17 years, but it was clearly not in my passion, not my DNA. It was a very small, many days I was all by myself since we were pretty much remote workers. And so it wasn't me at all. And so I sold that business, very lucky, to my last customer. They bought the intellectual property. And then since then, I've been sort of figuring out what is my passion? What does God have on me on this earth right now to do next? What is my purpose? And so I've been working at that for the last couple of years, 6 years. couple of startups, one for text messaging that's got a few number of customers, that's paying for itself, but it's probably not going to be, it's not really my passion, but it's paying a few bills. And another business I started on race relationships, which was totally not technical, everything to do with relationships, but I couldn't give that away either. So that's, and so back 3 years ago or so, I started or not you, DNA behavior. I started HLPster with the intent of people helping other people. So many of the social media sites are, it's all about me. And so the intent of HLPster is to figure out a space in which people can help other people. And that's the primary purpose, to helping other people. And last thing I'll mention, it's came to my attention, and Hugh, at the risk of sounding like I'm being very self-serving here, throughout my entire career, I was a lone person. I was the CEO and the only person making decisions. I had no person next to me who filled in my voids, my gaps, and they're huge. And so, perhaps not the purpose of this conversation, but as a significant portion of who I am now, I now have got a mentor and a partner, Hugh Massie, who's filling in the void of where I have failed miserably, of not having that person next to me to check me, to work with me, to keep me on track. Because as my personality type, I am the biggest squirrel, shiny object guy in the world, and that has not always been to my benefit. So that's enough about me.
Yeah, well, thank you, John. And I think that, what I heard out of that is, firstly, you're a highly educated man, an electrical engineer, you know a bit about chemistry as well. And in a way, technology is a vehicle for you, but it's really about people, and connecting people together. And that's what makes you tick, gives you energy. Being a Lone Ranger CEO, I think it's lonely for a lot of people, but particularly for someone like you who needs the connection of somebody else and to be able to discuss things with people, that becomes even harder. So, I'm enjoying, my role in helping, fill that gap. And I think, as we know, in some ways you help me because you're getting me out of my closeted world of being an initiator and out there and building communities. And, at the end of the day, life, as I was just talking about with somebody else, somebody was just interviewing me on a podcast. I think, a lot of life grows for people by the relationships they build and the connections that they have, and you've got to have forums to do it. And I think that's why HLPster is so powerful. But in a way, with the HLPster platform, it's technology, which is something that you've got a great skill in.
Thank you.
And it's the relationship building, all of that's coming together. I think your other tech business that you had wasn't really a relationship building business. It was quite functional, that accelerated, in the world of, telephones and, communications in that sense. But HLPster is a lot more to what you're about, I think.
Exactly right. And so that's why it was maybe a year or two ago when I realized I did not have my own personal mission statement, and really sought out and read books and really took it active. And it took a lot longer than I thought it was going to, but until I came up with my personal mission statement is to connect people to other people, places, and events to enhance their life. And that took a long time for me to figure out.
Yeah, and I think that's the very functional part of, in a way, your identity. What you've done is got to that finding or that conclusion of, it's about building connections between people, but also where are people going to go and connect? Whether it's in an online forum or whether it's in a physical location at a cafe. What do they like doing? And I think what you're doing is you're bringing all of those things together and giving people the opportunity to find out about others, because I think what the HLPster platform, for what our listeners may not know, is really a personalized website that's very easy to build, because John's company basically does it for you in a nanosecond at a very low cost. But everything you want to know about a person, if they want to provide that, is sitting there.
Right.
And okay, you can get some of that at Facebook or LinkedIn, but you get a lot of advertising, you get a lot of other clutter and noise. And this really helps you learn about a person. And I think, John, I think if we get down to it, I think it's pretty clear you're good at technology, you don't love it, you love relationship building. But I might ask the obvious question: what is it about relationship building that really lights your fire? What gets your juices going, in terms of relationship building, not only for yourself, but seeing others build relationships? Because I think that's a big part of this.
It's such a great question. A touchdown for me is if I know two people and I connect those two people and something good comes out of that.
Yeah. So their life gets propelled forward. They get some excitement. It could be two people meeting up to share an idea. In fact, two people could be introduced and get married, have a more exciting work connection because you've now found your soulmate at work, or a workmate. And I think that's something that's big about what you're doing, because what I'm learning about employee engagement is if you don't have a great friend at work, you're probably not going to stay there. And what you're doing is helping people find that great friend and something that you've got something in common with, and be able to go out and do it.
And particularly as people are getting more virtual, and when you do a Zoom meeting, it's very transactional. We're here at the Zoom meeting to accomplish X. And so there's no time beforehand or after to, what's your weekend plans, what's your passion, or, what did you cook last night? I know you enjoyed cooking on the big green egg. And so there's this, you don't get a chance to develop any type of relationship. So I was at a meeting not long ago, or this week actually, and some fellow who works for a major bank company sat down. He was telling a story, and I have never met this guy ever, but he was sitting down at a meeting with a bank meeting, and he recognized that he's sitting at this table. So it was a real live, not virtual, sitting at a table, and he didn't know one thing about anyone in that room, no relationships at all. And he mentioned, without knowing my business or anything about me, he offered that up to the group of our small group who was talking at that time on his own, that he considered that a major problem.
Yeah, I think it is. And I think people getting isolated is a major problem. And the Zoom world does create isolate. I mean, it creates some connection. I think Zoom's is a great platform. I don't think we should knock it, but it's not the same as meeting a person live. I think the fact that you and I are able to meet not far away from our respective homes, 10 minutes drive, and get so much more done than if we'd just been sitting across the Zoom. Me being more the initiator and perhaps the less naturally relational of the two of us, I could handle that for a while longer than you. But even then, it would start to get sterile, because there's a bond that's missing, a camaraderie that's missing. And I think that's what HLPster is helping, in a way, people to break the ice, to find a touch point with another person. And yeah, if you walk into a room cold, you don't have to walk into a room cold. You could start, you can know more about people before you get there with what you're doing.
Right.
But overcoming isolation, I think this is a big thing in the workplace as well.
It's more so than what you get on LinkedIn. I mean, I got a chance to review one of the help sites, and that's what we call the help site of someone in your team. And just from a very brief moment, okay, I see some of this guy's passions and hobbies and interests. Now all of a sudden, this guy is a far more interesting individual. Not that he wasn't before him, but now I know, wow, okay, he's got some pretty interesting hobbies or passions that I'd kind of like to drill down on that.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's, you know, I think part of the relationship building for you is that you've got a deep curiosity about people, and where's their heart, and what have they got a heart for? What do they believe in, and what's going to make them jump out of bed each day? You're very good at getting to the bottom line with people on those types of areas, John. And HLPster is a vehicle for doing this. You know, and I think if we look at, you know, your DNA profile versus mine, for example, you know, John, you know, and this is just for our audience, John is a community builder. And that's a person that is extremely engaging. I don't think there's anybody who's more outgoing than I know than you. Maybe my mother is about equal. But there's also a fair degree of compassion there as well, and empathy, and the desire to build a relationship. You know, some people can be outgoing, but it's about meeting as many people as they can. It can be superficial. For you, it's with that you know, higher what we call patience score, but really the relationship building element there. It's about building deep connection.
Well, and I appreciate that. And again, not the risk of sounding self-serving or egotistical, but if I don't sit and listen and really listen to the person across from me, which is something I've been working at, and I am now really, really good at it, that I'm listening to because if I don't know that person, then I don't know how to help that person, or I don't know who I can offer or what service or who I can connect that person with to accomplish, you know, my mission to try to find this guy, you know, someone to connect with. So actually, I share with you, I'm meeting with another fellow, and he's he's Afro-American, and I was looking at him very, very intently because I was trying to hear every word he said and not be distracted with people around me. And he said, "John, I got to tell you, man, you're looking too intently." he said, some Afro-Americans are going to be uncomfortable with you looking at them like that. You need to back out a little bit and not be quite so focused. I'm not sure, but anyway, I just mentioned that was sort of an interesting feedback that I received.
Yeah, but that's also, but that's perhaps just a part of you, of your deep caring, and that you really want to understand what makes that person tick, and in a way you've got to slow yourself down and listen and be intentional about the listening to really hear the person. That's what you're seeking to do. But no, I think what's interesting about your life journey is having started with technology, and, you know, as you said, sort of being a geek while you were at high school and university and doing some fundraising with it, and then building a technology business that, you know, provided pretty well for your family, your two boys to go to private school, et cetera, college, all of those types of things. You're still standing and breathing. I mean, not everybody is an entrepreneur is doing that, and you're out and about now onto the next thing. But it's very interesting how it's evolved, that technology is still a part of your life, but you're able to fulfill your joy of people and building relationships. And it's sort of through HLPster, it's sort of multi-level, because I think HLPster provides you a framework to go and talk to anybody that's breathing at whatever level, and you've got a big Rolodex, but also you're going to create relationships with the platform beyond you. You know, people are going to be getting connected with each other way beyond you doing it one-on-one. This is mass scale.
Right. And that's our moonshot is 1 billion connections.
Yeah, 1 billion relationships. And probably to do that, if you get 20 million people onto HLPster, time they have relationships, bang, there's 1 billion there. So I think this is, this is very exciting stuff. So how do you see, John, let's say in 5, 8 years time, you've had extreme success with HLPster because it's starting to move along now. People are getting a lot. I know you're getting a lot more nods than you are, people telling you to run away. This is just about execution now. It's not about it not being successful. It is. But how do you want to be remembered by others? Hold yourself out there in the world, be seen and accountable, putting yourself on a pedestal. How do you want to, go down in life in a way?
Yeah. I would like to be known as like the masterful connector,
Right.
like somebody who's remembered for connecting people, and I'm a huge believer in pay it forward, and quite frankly, I don't care if you even get something in return, which is sometimes to my detriment. I mean, I'm happy to spend some probably unrealistic amount of time to help somebody move their ball forward and not really expect or even want anything in return.
But I think this is the exciting thing about what you're doing with HLPster and about you, in a way in which you can build these relationships. You don't have to be in the middle negotiating yourself a clip or getting a secret commission or anything like that, because that's a bit dirty and unethical in a lot of ways. I feel dreadfully uncomfortable with all of that. I'd rather help people for this, as you say, for paying it forward, and think that the universe is going to think something back to me. It doesn't always come back equal. Your payday is going to come through HLPster being successful, and whatever that is. And, this is what I was saying to somebody else before, you've defined your goal around the human contribution you're going to make of getting 1 billion people connected. The rest is going to take care of itself, as opposed to saying, I want to make $1 billion out of this, and I won't be happy if I don't, or I want to make a clip off every transaction. And I think this is where, LinkedIn and Facebook and some of these other platforms where there's commissions and advertising and things going on aren't trusted as much. And I think trust is a big thing for you too in this. So, so what is it about masterful connector? Why did you sort of land on that word? Because I think trust is a big thing in here. You want to make connections for this, in a way, for the sake of making them, but it is purposeful, so that people expand their lives. But why masterful?
Well, masterful, I just made that word up in connection.
It's not a bad word. I'm just interested.
No. I think when when you help someone be successful, you connect them to whatever it is. I think you just made the universe a better place. I mean, I want to introduce them to the church I'm going to, for example. If every African American I meet, it's almost, I ask them, hey, what church you go to? And they say, well, tell me, or they don't church, and I tell them about the Black church I go to. And I've, several of my friends are going to that church now as a result of that introduction. Okay, that's a touchdown. I've made the world a better place. That person now has got a church that he feels comfortable with. Even something as simple as a couple people. One guy used to work for me, but another person, a instructor at the gym I go to, is having terrible neck pains. I introduced her to the surgeon that did back surgery on my son. She went to him, the surgeon, not my son, the surgeon, and got her back fixed, and she is a new person. And so that is a huge touchdown for me. Not only did I solve this gal's problem of helping her back get better, and someone who I trust and respect, the surgeon got another client, patient. So that I think that's moving the ball forward.
And I think there's a couple of dimensions here. You like to be the masterful connector of people at a one-on-one level, and seeing the joy that they get or the satisfaction, and knowing that something's positive has happened out of that, like referring the person to this person to the doctor. to get that surgery. But that's one level of it. That's where John Marshall is directly involved. But there's also with what you're doing with HLPster.
Right.
This is going to be extremely scalable in the sense that, I've got my HLPster account. At some point, Hugh's going to put things in there that might lead to others getting help that didn't directly involve you. So how do you feel about that as well?
That's the whole intent. The whole intent. I mean, John Marshall can only make X number of introductions, and I have had more than one person come to me and say, John, I wish I had that talent. I wish I want to hang out with you when we go, to a bar or somewhere. When we go somewhere, we're meeting people. I want to hang out with you because you bring people together and can make introductions and so I'm trying to reproduce that. And so that is exactly what HLPster wants to be. That's what HLPster is a tool that replicates my passion on connecting people.
But I think it's connecting all people in the world in some way. As you say, for the betterment of the universe as such, and that's a very pure purpose. So do you see yourself? Do you think it is being a master connector of all people? Is it, or is there something else that's sitting there as well? In terms of your identity? I mean, it's pretty clear, isn't it? Masterful connector.
That's really, I take a look at the businesses. The telecom business doesn't count. That made some money, and it was, people were talking, but that didn't count, the niche that we were in. But the businesses after that, I started a business called Group Gel. The intent was to get groups together, primarily nonprofit type stuff, so that an organization could better serve their members. Then there's a ton of people in that space right now. The next business I went was BizText. Okay, that's using texting to connect clients and customers to businesses. The customers that use it love it because it does exactly that. It connects their customers with their clients. It connects the business with their clients. And so that's totally a relationship business. People rather than picking up the phone, they text. We do it all day long. And then Reengage Now, the race relationship business, was all about creating relationships between whites and blacks. Because as an old white guy, I found that once I realized, after I made a conscious effort to get to know some more African American, include them in my network, I'm far less judgmental, far more accepting of the differences in culture and the differences that exist, because there are differences. And now I've learned to embrace them rather than be fearful or to be negative towards them. And so again, that's building relationships, but that's just me. And so HLPster wants to do that, exact same thing, but on scale, so that people can get to know other people. And if they realize in this universe, generally people are pretty good, that maybe they'll be less prone to be, they'll be a little more friendly at the grocery store with other people. They'll be a little more welcoming to create, to help other people. And certainly from more of a pragmatic point of view, one of the features of HLPster, for example, is to put in there, these are restaurants that I enjoy. These are, this is where I get my teeth cleaned. And so more, who cuts my hair, who delivers firewood. Okay, there's a lot of people that are looking for a good source of firewood. Okay, I can help them out there and help the guy that delivers the wood. And so it's that being able to take that to scale is the direction we want to head.
Yeah, and I think that one day, because somewhat how to do it, that the technology will do a lot of that connecting for people. If somebody wants firewood, somebody could put a message out into using the BizText tool, which I'm sure you'll integrate to this. And the message will go out and bang, or a discussion will take place. And I think you could build that closed end.
That's exactly right.
Discussion in their group gel can play a role in here as well. I think that none of that's a waste, but I think the bigger structure is HLPster. But it seems to me that there's a deeper purpose in here as well. It's about connecting different people, or people with differences. And while diversity perhaps is a polarizing topic right now for some, it's something that we have to deal with. And in a way, being able to deal with differences in life and different people and connect with different people, that's somewhat the holy grail of relationship building, whether you're a leader or just an ordinary human out there in the community.
Well, and thank you for mentioning that, because it is a reality. It is in everyone's best interest that we figure out how we can get along and help each other. I mean, that is, if we don't want more riots, if we don't want crime, if we don't want, a lot of things that are associated with some of the differences that we have, if we want to try to fix that or make that better, then folks from both sides need to get together and solve these problems. And the first thing I have to do is create a relationship between them, and a true relationship of understanding and respect, and walking into a room and say, okay, I may not necessarily agree with everything, but I sort of got a better feel for why you're coming in from the angle that you're coming in. You have life experiences that I have no idea what they are. And so as a result of that, you're going to have honest opinion and an honest viewpoint that is absolutely valid based upon what's happened in your life. And I respect that. Now, what do we do to, move this ball forward?
Yeah, and again, we've talked a lot about HLPster, but I think this is a reality: is that the HLPster platform enables all of that to happen safely, and to give people who are different talking points to learn more about each other, and as we said a little earlier on, in a way to pay it forward, to help pay it forward for somebody else that might be in need. That can all happen in the platform. So, I suppose I've been sitting here wondering, John, as we sort of wrap up, whether masterful, community builder, does it do enough justice to what you're doing, or to you? Is there something else you think that further in your identity, or is, masterful community builder enough for now? Because that is the essence of what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, the big scheme. I'm a Jesus follower. I've sort of embraced this concept that's being taught at a Bible study I've been attending, that at the end of the day, I'm a citizen of the kingdom of God, and which supersedes the United States and Georgia and everything else. And so to be a good citizen in that community, that's the direction that I'm absolutely heading towards. And my contribution to that global universe, if you will, is right now being wrapped up in HLPster as a mechanism. I mean, I've got a scheme a scheme is the wrong word. I've got a use case and how it makes being able to use HLPster makes it really, really easy to invite someone to Bible study, or to invite somebody to church, to come to the church I'm attending, or another church if they may be interested in my case in point, the Afro-American church. So, and so if HLPster moves that forward, and we automate, or not automate, but we create a mechanism that people make it easier to invite other people to church, and they actually end up going to church and now and are active participants, that's a huge data point. I mean, I think that's a huge.
So in some ways in here, yeah, and I think you're, bringing people together at a lot of levels, including, within the, in the kingdom, and in getting people to see the light. So uh, being a global community connector is probably something is in some ways is what you're doing, isn't it? I mean, is because that's connecting the whole global community.
No, I've never thought of that. I mean, maybe I'm being self-limiting, but if I can get if I can get the United States connected, I'd consider that fairly good.
Yeah, but I think to reach your goal, and let's not be self-limiting, it's going to be the world, and it's not going to take much for it to be global, because reality is people in the United States have got friendships everywhere now.
Right. Right.
And so while you might be US centric to some degree, and Atlanta, Georgia centric, that doesn't mean that you're not providing this for the rest of the world, because the rest of the world's going to do this for you in a way under your rules, with this ethos.
Right. When we do this correctly, and people want to sign up and they want to participate, then it will absolutely go global. I mean, I look at, we both have EO experience, and my Burning Man experience with EO, everyone at our Burning Man camp was all over the country, all over the world, intentionally so. And so those are relations that, would love to continue to foster.
Yeah, so I think it's somewhere you are a global community connector, and HLPster, through the platform and the personalized website it builds, is the connection platform, right, for global connection. So, John, as we wrap up here, is there anything else that you'd like to share for listeners, for people out there? Word of wisdom, something from your journey. Can be a book, can be anything.
Well, I share too much, as you know. One of the downsides, the struggle of community builder is that we do share too much. I'm very, very thankful. This last Saturday, I celebrated 7 years of sobriety, which I owe single-handedly to God and my form mates, who, those folks who don't know, that's a group within EO, and Hugh was a part of that, as well as several others. And so my life has completely been changed as a result of that. My only other thing was, man, if you've got children, 936. If you have children, you have 936 weekends from the day they are born until they turn 18. And once they're gone, they're still around, but those days you cannot capture them back. So my only words of wisdom, if you have children, put the phone down, turn it off, turn off the TV, and share that time with your child. Man, nothing gets me more when I see a parent, particularly a dad, with their children in the store, texting, or at a restaurant, and they're spending more time on their phone than they are with their children, because those are days that you cannot get back.
And everybody, I think every dad and mom in varying ways is guilty of a little bit of that in this world. But I think, it's interesting that you put a number on it, 936. It sort of brings it to a stark reality. And while that sounds like quite a lot, and maybe, I've got a couple of weekends to waste in there, you haven't really. And as you say, it goes by quick. For me, with a 13-year-old and 11-year-old, as you know, John, I mean, we're more than halfway through. We're on the other side of 1,000 with both of them, and there's sort of like a third of the journey left. And so I think that's a very important point that you've shared with people right there to to remember.
Yeah.
And I think to the situation you mentioned in terms of going through AA, I don't think underestimate yourself. You had a will to do it, and there was a reason why you've done it. And I think the reason is HLPster, because you had a big piece of the journey and a purpose to go through that and provide this great solution for the world. And I think it's up to all of us now to help you and be part of the journey to make it succeed.
Love it. Thank you, my friend.
All right, John. Okay, thank you.